Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Today we have a deck that focuses on an unconventional Noivern. It's not the one that you guys are expecting. This is the one from the Noivern Trainer Kit, I believe it was called. So we're actually going to be making use of its second bite attack, and from time to time we are going to be making use of its Sonic Bazooka attack. Now second bite is a pretty powerful Pokemon, especially if the opponent's active Pokemon already happens to have some damage counters on it, so that Noivern is usually a very powerful Pokemon to finish off any EX Pokemon that have a little bit of HP remaining. Of course non-EX Pokemon as well, but usually if we're facing any non-EX Pokemon, we are often able to knock them out in a single attack. So Noivern is usually going to be a finisher type Pokemon for EX Pokemon which we may encounter. So this is going to be one of the main attackers of our deck. One of the other attackers in our deck is going to be the Druddigon from the Flash Fire set with the Revenge attack. Now Revenge only hits for 20 damage, but if we happen to have lost a Pokemon, then the next turn, when we do bring out that Druddigon, we are able to hit for an additional 70 damage. So as you guys can see, that is 90 damage for only a double colors energy or a double dragon energy. So our deck is very energetically efficient. We can get our Noivern going for a single energy attachment. Same with the Druddigon. So as you guys can see, we're only running double colorless energies and double dragon energies. Now as you guys can see, you guys are probably thinking, well, 90 damage really isn't a whole lot of damage, and second bite isn't really all that effective if we haven't already stacked a lot of damage counters on the opponent's active Pokemon, and that is absolutely true. But Altaria really seems to change the entire flow of the game, usually to our favor, so hopefully we can bring out a whole lot of Altarias. With the Fight Song ability, it will increase the total damage output of each of our Dragon type Pokemon by an additional 20 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. So Altaria is really key to our deck strategy running efficiently. So we are running a total of 4 copies of the Swablu and of course 4 copies of the Altaria. Now we also have an alternative attacker that could work quite well. This is going to be the Hydreigon EX. It has the Shred attack, which hits for an initial 80 damage. But the really nice thing about Shred is that it goes through any Pokemon's abilities. So in case we encounter a deck that runs Latias EX, for example, that is absolutely fine. Hydreigon EX can attack it, and possibly the most troubling Pokemon which we may encounter in our particular deck, which is going to be Aegis/EX. Now normally we would have automatically lost against an Aegis/EX deck just because our deck is entirely composed of special energy cards. But luckily for us, again, Shred is able to attack that Aegis/EX. And of course, with our Altarias and Muscle Band, Hydreigon EX is often able to overpower Aegis/EX before it really becomes a menacing Pokemon. So Hydreigon EX is a very important Pokemon in this deck. I would highly recommend running 2 copies of it. And it's also just another very useful Pokemon because it does have the Dragon Road ability, and that will often allow us to be able to retreat our Dragon-type Pokemon for free, for the most part. Of course, the only exception is that there has to be a Stadium card at play, and the other exception is that Hydreigon EX does have a total of 3 energy cards that it requires to be able to retreat. So a single Hydreigon EX would only reduce it by 2. We have 2 Hydreigon EXs though, so luckily we would be able to freely retreat that Hydreigon EX as well. Now going on to the last 2 Pokemon in our deck, Mr. Mime I feel like is worthwhile to discuss. It has the Bench Barrier ability. This will prevent all damage done to any of our bench Pokemon by attacks. Of course, our Swablus are really easy to snipe off. Same with our Noibats, before we have ultimately evolved them into the Altaria, and of course the Noivern. So Mr. Mime is a very important Pokemon in this deck, especially in case we come across a Landorus EX type deck, for example. So we are running a single copy of him. And the very last Pokemon in our deck is going to be the Shaman EX. It has the setup ability. This Pokemon goes a long way with respects to really getting our deck going. So we are running a total of 3 copies of him. May seem a little bit excessive, but believe me, Shaman EX really does pay off to be included in this type of deck. Now, something that is unusual that you guys probably notice right away is that we have quite a few colorless Pokemon in our deck, even though we are running a lot of these Dragon type Pokemon. So that actually works in our favor because Winona happens to be a tremendous mechanism in our deck. It will allow us to both increase the rate at which we are able to set up our entire strategy, and of course it also really allows us to grab those Shaman EXs, so it acts as both a supporter card to allow us to get our setup going, and of course for some draw support as well, because we can use it to grab some Shaman EXs. So Winona is an exceptionally useful card in this deck. we are running a total of 3 copies of it. We're also running another very unusual supporter card in our deck. That is going to be the Iris. It is very, very useful, especially given the fact that we often tend to lose some prize cards early on in the game, just because, again, we have some relatively low HP Pokemon, quite easy to knock out, but when we do evolve them, that's really when the flow of the game usually starts to shift more so towards our own favor. But nonetheless, Iris can help us out, especially with respects to getting those final big knockouts in case we are facing an EX Pokemon that has full HP, for example. So I felt like it was worthwhile to include at least a single copy, so we are running one in our deck. The other cards in our deck, guys, I feel like are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm going to go through them relatively quickly. We're running the Computer Search as our A-Spec card. This is just because we have a deck strategy that emphasizes on us getting set up early. Otherwise, we often tend to get donked out before we're really able to get our strategy going. So Computer Search does go a long way. We are running it as our A-Spec card. Starling Megaphone, of course, that is for us to deal with Garbodor. 3 Ultra Balls will allow us to grab our Dragon-type Pokemon. Our colorless Pokemon are mainly going to be grabbed through that Winona. 3 VS Seekers will allow us to reuse any of our supporter cards. We have Shaman EX as a huge draw supporter type Pokemon in our deck, so we don't have a whole ton of draw supporter cards in our deck, but we are running a total of 2 copies of the Colorless, 3 Ants, and 2 Junipers for some draw support, 2 Lysanders to lure out any of the opponent's benched Pokemon, 4 Skyfield Stadium cards will allow us to load up our bench with those Altarias, and of course those Shaman EXs, and in case, of course, that Skyfield Stadium card does happen to go into the discard pile, we'll often send our Shaman EXs into the discard pile along with it. 3 Muscle Bands to increase the total damage output of our Pokemon, and a total of 8 energy cards. 4 of them are the Double Dragon Energy, and 4 of them are the Double Colorless Energy. Alright, so with that, guys, we're gonna go and find ourselves an opponent. Again, I have to say that our deck strength really lies on the fact that the Winona really makes a huge difference most of the time with respects to setting up our deck strategy, and also the fact that our Pokemon are always able to get going for a single energy attachment, with the real exception being the Hydreigon EX in case we really do need to attack with it. So those Double Dragon Energies and those Double Colors Energies really make our deck a highly efficient one. Alright, so let's see which one of us is able to go first. And awesome, looks like we're going to flip 8 tails. Absolutely, I will choose to go first. And looks like we're going to start off with the Hydreigon EX as our active Pokemon. And looks like we're going to see Flabébé make its appearance. Alright, so I mean, yeah, let's actually go and use that Ultra Ball to get rid of the Noivern in our hand. And let's go and get rid of the Double Colors Energy as well. I'm going to go and temporarily bring out a Swablu. Again, Swablu is just a really important Pokemon to have, so I feel like it is nice for us to have a couple of those in our bench. You know what, I think I'm actually going to use the Hydreigon EX as an attacker for now, so let's go and actually attach a Double Colors Energy to him, and I'm going to go and attach a Muscle Band as well. Let's go and use that N for some new cards in our hand. I'm going to go and lay down an additional Swablu. Let's hold off on the Computer Search for now, and then we're going to go and end the turn. Now, if the opponent's unable to bring out another Pokemon, we'll be able to win, but of course that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. I think our opponent is probably running a Shedinja deck. Yeah, so we are going to see the Frozen City Stadium getting laid down into the opponent's bench dead and forcing us to get some new cards in our hand. Luckily, we do have the Double Dragon Energy card in our hand, so our Hydreigon EX will absolutely be able to attack. We haven't actually seen any Shedinjas or even the Mew EX make its appearance just yet. So let's go and actually bring out an Altaria for the time being. I'm a little bit reluctant with respects to playing the Juniper. Don't want to be discarding all of these energy cards since we don't run a whole lot in our deck. And of course, using that N, I don't think would be all that wise of a card either. Just because I feel like that would help out the opponent. So let's actually just go and use that Shred attack, hitting our opponent's Flabébé for 120 damage, and that will allow us to snatch up a prize card. Awesome, looks like we do have a Winona in our hand. I will absolutely use that to look for a Noibat, a Swablu, and probably my last Pokemon is going to be a Shaman EX. So it looks like the opponent is going to bring out an additional Flabébé, and that will reduce the number of cards in our hand. Luckily, we do have an additional Altaria in our hand, so it looks like we're getting some pretty good cards in our hand, and a Shaman EX. Looks like the opponent is going to quit the game. I guess they were just getting really unlucky with respects to getting their deck strategy going, but I'm actually quite happy that they have conceded the game, of course, because I'm getting really close to earning that final prize. So let's go and find ourselves an additional opponent and see what type of deck we're going to be facing this time around. Okay, so we're facing quite a few different types of Pokemon. Not really sure what type of deck our opponent is going to be facing. I feel like the Versus ranking system seems to be a little bit more random. I mean, I've been getting paired up with a lot more beginner players, and I think we're facing an opponent that is probably a beginner, I would consider. So that is a little bit unfortunate. I mean, I feel like the Pokemon TCG definitely needs to fix that. We need to face more players that tend to be around our own level, because I mean, of course, that is just unfair for the opponent. And also looks like we do have an N in our hand. I'm going to hold off on the Skyfield Stadium card just to get rid of any stadium cards that our opponent may decide to bring out. Let's go and bring out a Druddigon. I'm going to go and attach a double colors energy to that Hydreigon EX for the time being, and then let's go and end the turn. I'm probably going to have to resort to using another N during our next turn. So Xerneas, actually this could be a bit of an interesting battle. I mean, that Xerneas could use its Geomancy for some energy acceleration, and if the opponent is able to bring out enough Gallades, then those Gallades could actually be quite menacing as well. Okay, so I have another double colors energy, but of course that won't really allow that Hydreigon EX to be able to attack. So you know what, let's go and use that VS Secret to look for an N, use it, hope we get a double dragon energy. Awesome, looks like we are going to get one. Let's go and lay down a Noibat, another Druddigon onto our bench, and then that Hydreigon EX will finally be able to start attacking. One of the weaknesses that I do want to mention about this deck, though, is that usually we get ravaged by fairy type decks just because, of course, we have the fairy weakness, which is unfortunate. Most of our dragon type Pokemon do happen to have that fairy weakness, and also, of course, the fact that fairy decks do tend to max potion off the bulk of the damage inflicted upon them, and sometimes we just can't get those big one-hit knockouts with our Pokemon. So that is just something to keep in mind. Again, Iris is only useful if the opponent has at least snatched up a couple of their prize cards. Not really sure we're going to be seeing much use of it in this battle. Again, just because I don't feel like our opponent is all that experienced of a player. Looks like we're going to see a Fairy Energy get latched onto that Xerneas. A Muscle Band as well. I feel like that is just a waste of Muscle Band because, of course, that Xerneas will be getting knocked out during this turn. And the opponent's not even going to use the Geomancy attack. I am absolutely speechless. I don't know what to say. So I'm going to go and attach a double colors energy to that Noibat. You know what? I don't really think we're going to be making much use of our Druddigons or the Revenge attack. Let's go and lay down that Shaman EX to draw some additional cards in our hand. Maybe I should have laid down the Skyfield Stadium card. That would have at least allowed me to bring out at least one of our Swablues, but that's okay. Let's go and use that Shred attack and knock out the opponent's Xerneas and draw onto an additional prize card. Well, sorry, actually our first prize card. And looks like we do have a Noivern in our hand. The opponent is going to bring out the Ralt. Again, I have absolutely no idea what's going on in this battle. The opponent is going to make use of that Psybolt and is going to paralyze that Hydreigon EX. So that's unfortunate. We can't really do a whole lot during this turn. Let's go and attach a double dragon energy, I guess, to a Druddigon. Never know, we may actually use it, and unfortunately again I have to end the turn. Ultra Ball wouldn't really be helpful. We already have a fully loaded bench, and of course we don't have any of our Skyfield Stadium cards at hand just yet. But I mean, for the time being, all that Ralts is doing is stalling for a little bit of time. We're seeing an additional energy attachment getting latched on, and this time the opponent is going to flip a Tails. Not really sure why they decided to attach a water energy card to that route as well. Let's just go and use that Shred attack, knock it out, and snatch one more prize card. So we have two Swablues in our hand. Would love to have been able to bring them out into our bench, but I think for the most part we will be able to knock out most of our opponent's Pokemon in a single attack regardless, unless of course we do see some of the opponent, some of our opponent's Pokemon evolving, but again, that doesn't really seem to be the case right now. Let's go and use that Colress to get some new cards in our hand. No Skyfield Stadium card just yet. My goodness, we are getting unlucky. Let's go and use that Shred, knock out that Oshawott, and snatch up one more prize card. Yeah, so I feel like this is definitely going to be a very, very quick game for the most part, but at least you guys are getting a basic understanding of the mechanism behind this deck. But I do feel like we'll need at least one more battle for you guys to really, really see this deck in action. Yeah, so it looks like the opponent is going to concede the game, and we've just won a mystery prize. Let's see what that is going to be. And let's see. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be 2 tournament tickets, so that's kind of cool, and getting really, really close to getting the Pokemon Fan Club, which happens to be a full art card, so that's kind of cool. But I actually think the 5 Roaring Skies is a bit of a better prize as opposed to the Pokemon Fan Club, but at least that's my own opinion. Just because, I mean, with it would definitely take a lot less than 5 Roaring Skies packs to be able to snatch up some of the, what's it called, the sorry, the Pokemon fan clubs off of the public trades. Alright, so anyways, let's go and start off with Druddigon. It's a pretty bulky Pokemon, and then I'm going to go and lay down a Swablu and a Noibat onto our bench. Awesome. Looks like we're going to see a Manectric EX as the opponent's active Pokemon, so this should be a lot more of an intense sort of battle. The opponent is going to use that Ultra Ball, get rid of a VS Seeker and a Super Scoop Up, and looks like we're going to see Seismitoad EX, a Verbank City Gym, Hypnotoxic Laser. Yeah, this is going to be a really, really annoying match. I definitely think that is the type of matchup we're going to be seeing. We're seeing a Lightning Energy get latched onto that Manectric EX, and looks like that Druddigon is going to remain asleep, unfortunately. Okay, so we have the Winona. I will absolutely be making use of that, so let's go and look for a Swablu. One more Noibat, or I mean, we do have one Noibat in our bench. So you know what, I'm actually going to go and look for 2 Swablus instead, and a Shaman EX for a bit of draw support. Let's go and latch on the Muscle Band onto that Noibat, and a double Colorless Energy onto it as well. Let's go and lay down 2 Swablus, Shaman EX for a bit of draw support. We do have 2 Ultra Balls in our hand. I mean, we don't have a, sorry, what's it called? The Skyfield Stadium card just yet, so I'm going to go and use that VS Seeker to look for an additional one. Well, you know what? Should I just get rid of it? I'm not really sure. Because I mean, we'll probably be getting item locked relatively soon. So you know what? Let's actually go and use it to get rid of a Colorless Energy from our hand and an Ultra Ball from our hand as well. I guess we're gonna go and grab onto a Noivern and keep it into our hand temporarily, and unfortunately with that, guys, I'm gonna have to go and end the turn. Looks like the Druddigon is probably gonna be getting knocked out during this turn. I mean, the opponent doesn't even need to be able to use the Assault Laser attack. That Enhanced Hammer is gonna get rid of our double Colorless Energy. Luckily though, we do have the Double Dragon Energy in our hand, so that is absolutely going to help out. Actually, maybe I should have held off on the Muscle Band attachment to that Noibat, because of course that means that the opponent's Manectric EX can knock it out in a single attack using its Assault Laser attack. And it looks like he's going to target our Noibat anyways. And let's go and bring it out. We will be able to bring out the Noivern, so I'm going to go and bring him out. Let's go and bring out an Altaria as well. Attach the Double Dragon Energy to that Noivern. I'm going to go and make use of that Winona. Just going to go and actually grab onto a Shaman EX. I do want to be able to draw onto a whole ton of cards in our hand. Let's go and bring him out and see if we get anything useful. Okay, so we have the Starling Megaphone. Unfortunately, that wouldn't allow that Noivern to be able to survive. So, should I use it? Yeah, well, no, I think I'm just going to hold off on it for now. Let's go and attack with Second Bite, hitting our opponent for 80 damage. Hopefully we're able to knock it out during our next turn, but I don't really think that's going to be all that likely, because we have a lot of, we don't really have any more attackers in our bench just yet. I mean, we could potentially attack with that Shaman EX in case we do manage to grab onto a double Colorless Energy, but unfortunately we don't really have that in our hand just yet. So our Noivern is definitely going to be getting knocked out during this turn. Of course, if the opponent decides to make use of that Assault Laser, and it looks like he will be, so I guess let's go and bring out that Swablu. Unfortunately, it is going to be a Pokemon that we will be sacrificing. Let's go and use that Starling Megaphone. I will be making use of that N card. I could look for a Winona to look for some additional Pokemon on our bench, but I think N would probably be a bit of a better option. Okay, so we do have a Hydreigon EX, so that is kind of nice. Let's go and bring him out. That is going to be the next attacker. Let's go and bring out the Skyfield Stadium card as well. I'm going to go and attach a Double Dragon Energy onto that Hydreigon EX, and then that is going to be how we end the turn. Probably going to be using the Colress during our next turn, maybe the Juniper as well, not really sure. Depending on what the opponent really does. So we're seeing a Muscle Band get latched on to that Manectric EX. But hopefully we're able to overpower the opponent again. Seismitoad EX can really cause a lot of trouble for us. Luckily, our opponent has not Quaking Punched us just yet. It looks like he's actually going to refrain from attacking the Swablu and instead bring out that Mega Manectric EX. Alright, so you know what, let's actually go and use that Colress. Because we're only drawing one last card. I don't think that's going to be all that big of an issue. And awesome, we do have an Altaria, so now we'll be able to freely retreat. But we don't have an energy card to attack with that Hydreigon EX just yet. So I'm not sure if I'd like to bring out that Hydreigon EX. I mean, we're probably going to see a lot of hammers, things like that. I mean, we've already seen a couple. So you know what, I think I'm actually going to keep the Altaria as the active Pokemon. Let's go and attach 2 Muscle Bands, one onto that Hydreigon EX and one onto that Druddigon, and unfortunately I do have to end the turn. Maybe I should have held off on the Altaria, but well, it's a little too late now anyways. So we're seeing a Muscle Band get latched on to that Seismitoad EX. I think I'm probably going to use the Juniper during our next turn. Could use the N as well. That would at least force the opponent to have one less card in their hand. So let's go and temporarily bring out an Altaria. Again, I am able to freely retreat it. We have an additional Hydreigon EX. Yeah, let's go and actually bring it out onto the bench. Yeah, let's go and use that and reduce the number of cards in our opponent's hand. I really need an energy card at this point, guys. A double colors energy or a double dragon energy. Any one of those would do. And of course, I don't get any of those in my hand. So let's go and bring out the Noibat onto our bench. I'm going to go and retreat that Altaria, temporarily bring out the Hydreigon EX. We will be able to freely retreat it, luckily, because we do have 2 Hydreigon EXs in our bench, and at the very least it is able to survive an attack from the opponent's Mega Manectric EX, so that is kind of nice, but I definitely need to get rid of it soon. So we're seeing a Lysander, and looks like the opponent is going to target out that Shaman EX. So my goodness, all he needs is a single prize card to be able to win the game. So definitely going for the N would be the wisest choice right now. So let's go and VS Seeker to look for that N, reduce the number of cards in the opponent's hand to a single one. My goodness, still no energy cards. Let's go and bring out a Mr. Mime, a Shaman EX for a bit more cards in our hand. Finally, we're going to be able to attack. So currently that Hydreigon EX can hit for 100 damage, 140, yeah, so definitely more than enough. Let's go and retreat, bring out our Hydreigon EX, attach a double colors energy to him, and then use that shred attack, knocking out the opponent's Mega Manectric EX, and finally, we are able to draw onto our very first 2 prize cards of the game. We're seeing an additional Seismitoad EX. Seismitoad EX is going to hit us for 50 damage right now, and I mean, I'm trying to think, is there any possible way I can knock it out in a single attack? I don't think I can. So I think I should probably stick with the Hydreigon EX as our main attacker right now. I feel like I should probably switch in between our 2 Hydreigon EXs just because they are quite bulky Pokemon. So I'm going to go and attach a double dragon energy onto that Hydreigon EX for now. Don't think our opponent has anything useful in their hand, so let's hold off on the N for the time being. Let's go and use the shred attack, hitting our opponent for 140 damage once again. Should hopefully be able to knock it out during our next turn. We're seeing a crushing hammer. The opponent is going to flip a heads. Hopefully his targets are active Hydreigon EX, because I do want to be able to retreat it to bring out, yeah, so it looks like that is what he's gonna do, so that's actually kind of nice. Definitely will be retreating it to bring out our benched Hydreigon EX. So I feel like that N may have actually saved us from really taking a loss. So let's go and actually bring out that Hydreigon EX. Again, I don't think I should use my N or anything, so let's go and use that shred attack, hitting our opponent's Seismitoad EX for 120 damage, and then drawing onto 2 prize cards. Okay, so it looks like the opponent is going to have a roller skates, flippy tails, so that is absolutely going to work in our favor. Is there a way that I can win the game? I mean, I was thinking of looking for the Iris, but that would hit for 170 damage. Our Hydreigon EX is still lacking a muscle band, which would have, of course, then given us the victory in the game. So you know what, let's go and hold off on the computer search for now. Let's go and use that shred attack, hit that Seismitoad EX for 120 damage, and hopefully we're able to win during our next turn. So this was a very close game, but that N really did a number on the opponent, and I think it may have just sealed his fate. So unless we see a supporter card or a hypnotoxic laser, this will probably be our game. And yeah, so it looked like the opponent is just taking a bit of time to think, and that is going to be it. So I'm going to say GG to the opponent, because this was a really excellent game, and he came really close, but unfortunately it looks like we were able to outdo him. So that is quite nice. We're going to take the victory. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, it's a deck that I've really been enjoying using, and if you guys did, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.